whole nother level, but still keep it ghetto. Whole nother level, but still keep it ghetto.
Welcome to episode 6 of The Process of HipHop. I'm Brian Joseph, writer, blogger, processofhiphop.com, and as always, it's all about the process. In today's interview segment, I'll be talking to Herb Shah, aka Herb Dots. Herb is an artist out of Chicago, currently residing in the Pacific Northwest. He is also an entrepreneur and the founder of an anti-bullying campaign. So let's get into it.
I want to welcome Herb Shah to the Process of Hip Hop podcast. What's going on, man?
What's going on with you, man? How you doing?
Good. Hey, thanks for joining.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So you've been around for a while in the hip hop game. Tell me about your background as far as how you got started, what interested you in hip hop initially, and kind of how you got your start.
Man, it's funny because I know most people would say the same thing, but Michael Jackson was really the reason why I got started into entertainment, period. My parents, they had a little money to take me go see him live. So I got a chance to see him live, and I seen his work ethic, man. But he had a young lady that was about 7, the same age as myself, and she was in a wheelchair. And just the smile that he had on this young lady's face, and I got a chance to dance for her before he came out, and right there was it. I got bit by that bug to actually be able to put a smile on somebody's face.
Mm-hmm.
So I was extremely happy. As we go through high school, we had formed a group, Level Ground, and just started doing some local stuff in Chicago and moving around there. And we just decided to say that this is something we can possibly do. We had a couple of deals offered to us, but single deals weren't what we were looking for at that time. So we just continued to do our thing and pay for our own careers, and man, it got us out in the upper Northwest, being Level Ground, to do an anti-bullying program that led me to where I'm at right now. One of the members, Harvey Allbanger's, one of our brothers, he passed away. So the group kind of failed at that point in 2016. And, I just decided that I could possibly still do something solo after a couple of months of grieving, just to, keep what he had done for us alive.
So was this more, when you talk about solo, was this more so, what were you doing at this time? Were you doing primarily dancing? Were you doing rapping, or what were you doing at this time before you moved to the Northwest? Pacific Northwest, what were you doing? Primarily dancing or rapping, or both?
Both. What we did is that we formed 2 to 3 of us together, and whoever had the expertise brought that part to the group. So I was more of a dancer then, and quote unquote, I thought I was going to be a singer, so I brought that part.
Okay.
I brought that part, and my brother Seagram Hobbs, he brought the hip hop, and Harvey Allbanger, he brought all of the production and everything. But as the years went on, then we all started, writing ourselves and doing everything ourselves and understanding the business a lot more.
Okay, and when you say that, as far as the business, because I know a lot of artists get into, or aspiring artists get into the game, and they don't really know and understand the business aspect of it. So what would you say as far as, what were some things that you learned early on that you did not previously know about the business side of hip hop?
Not to trust what anybody says. Contracts are extensive, and the smallest print worded the right way can be ongoing for the rest of your life, and we almost signed a contract with a major label, and we actually just took it to a lawyer just one more overlook before we signed, and we found out that it was something that even to this day, and that was early 2000s. So even to this day, we would have been owing residuals to this group if we didn't have a lawyer to do that. So it's best to to understand what you want. And it's best to know, just what you want to perceive to the world. A lot of times people change you. A lot of record labels want to change you into what they want you to be, and that's not what they fell in love with in the beginning. So you just have to know what you're bringing to the table.
Correct. Right. So in terms of you guys didn't sign a deal. What were the next steps after that? What was the progression from that point?
Well, it was heartbreak because everybody thought they were getting ready to buy their parents a house. So we had to regroup. But after talking to the entertainment lawyer yet again, it was a lot that we didn't understand about BMI, ASCAP, making sure that you have all of your music covered and it's under your name, so we had to go back and do some studying on what this looked like, because we were just fancy free with music. And even to this day, I can write a song in an hour, so writing music isn't hard, but those steps that you need to have so you cover yourself and that this is what you're bringing, like, this is me, I'm bringing this to the world, but I still have to protect it, is what we had to learn after that deal. After that deal fell through, and we had another one to come, not too far behind that, and it was still the kind of the same thing of giving up way more royalties and rights than we were prepared to do.
Right. So so then from that standpoint, then you just decided that you guys are going to continue to try to freelance, or what happened after that?
Well, after that, we decided that what we were going to do is put music out ourselves. We were going to do it ourselves, and just understand that this isn't going to be hit the lotto, become a artist, and make millions of dollars. This was now we're going to have to grind. We're going to have to make a name for ourselves. We're going to have to take the good with the bad. And this is the road that a lot of people aren't taught when you look at TV and see The Voice or any of these other, shows like that. Those shows teach you that all you got to do is, sing a song and somebody's going to pick you up and you're going to be a star. It's still a track record that you have to do that we had to start doing then, because we talked to a couple of other artists that's known in the business that's from Chicago, and that's what they told us, is that we've seen you guys here, but you guys are local. No one outside of Chicago really knows you. Internet.
Right. What were, speaking of Chicago, what were some of the artists or groups? Because Chicago has a hip hop history, definitely. Obviously Kanye, kind of Chance the Rapper, Twister. Who were some of the groups and artists that influenced you out of Chicago?
Common, definitely, because of him being from the same side that we're from on South Side of Chicago. But Twister, just because of how clear he is, do or die, crucial conflict. These guys, and don't get me wrong, Kanye as well, Jeremiah. Just looking at some of these guys when they were doing it and we were still young at it. Yeah, that was what we had to learn. Timing. Chicago's all about timing. And if you can't do triple time and be clear and hit those marks when you're supposed to, then you're not really Chicago. So we had to work on that.
So elaborate a little bit more on that. When you say triple time, are you saying again the style and flow of the delivery?
Yes, it's three styles, and that's single time, double time, triple time, and you'll normally hear most of the people across the board in the industry do single time and sometimes double time, and that's just a little bit faster. Triple time is when you're getting into Twister, Bone Thugs and Harmony, the Amigos at this point now, and going back a little bit mystical and guys like this. When you spit that fast and I know what you're saying and it's hitting like that, like Missy Elliott did it a couple of times. When you do stuff like this, that's an art in itself, to be able to hit those marks and make sure you're clear. You know, that was Twista told us that when we were performing at Chicago State, he was saying that you guys are going to have to perfect all three. You can't just, fall back on that. You know, he said, now trust me, I'm from Chicago and I've been out here, but you know how far they only let me go so far, you know, and it's because of not too many people being able to do this style. You know, so you guys are going to need to know. He's like, I got my niche. You guys are going to need to know how to do all of them. So yet again, we had to go back to the lab. They had to go back to the,
and that's interesting. That's interesting that you say that, because if you look at some of Jay-Z's early music, he was definitely the triple time aspect to his flow. This was prior to Reasonable Doubt, and even when Big E's collaboration with Bone Thugs, where he actually showed that he could do that. Is also comes to mind. I think there's definitely some validity to that. How the great rappers seem to have that in their repertoire, so to speak, even though they don't always showcase that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I was looking at the difference of Pac getting on with Bone Thugs and Harmony, and then the difference of Biggie getting on and showing that he could also do that as well. So, you know, like I said, when that big East-West feud came out, everybody picked their sides. But now, years later, you're looking at two guys that were geniuses at what they could do.
Yeah.
And that's to me, I think when you approach hip hop, the unforgotten names like LL Cool J, who went across hip hop, all the way across hip hop, and then just said, I'm cool, I don't have to do it anymore. The Will Smiths, Big Willie style, all in it for one reason and one reason only. He's $20 million man right now. You know, anything that he does, everybody wants to know. These guys went across when you had to rap 98 bars and your chorus was like 2 words to where your chorus is pretty much it now, you know, and you can kind of go with whatever at this point, but your chorus has to hit the people. Back then, your words were what it was, your lyrics.
It was your bars. Now, I mean, and it's interesting because, you know, it kind of brings up something when you're talking about the dancing aspect. You know, when you go back to the 80s, you had rappers that dance. You know, I think about I'm not just thinking about Vanilla Ice or MC Hammer. Obviously, those were some examples. But Kid and Play, Big Daddy Kane was in the video dancing. Will Smith obviously would. So, how do you think? What do you think led to that change? Because these was like top MCs that were performing along with their music, and then all of a sudden, I mean, what do you think led to? You know, I don't know of any MCs who actually dance in their videos anymore. But what do you think led to that?
I think in the beginning, hip hop was really just a DJ with a mic keeping the party going, and then you had most of the MCs like Curtis Blow and Grandmaster Flash and all these guys that decided they were really going to do it. Who changed it to me? Rakim. Rakim changed just having a good time and having something to say with that good time. But then I gotta say, rest in peace, Heavy D and the boys took this to such a different level. And he still had bars. You know, don't get me wrong, I was an MC Hammer fan. His bars wasn't as great as his dance. But then when you look at Heavy D, right in there is when it kind of mold me, because that's where I came from. I came from that side of wanting to entertain and dance and do Michael Jackson and James Brown and all these other people that got people to just in an awe by dancing, you know. So man, when you see those groups like that and solo artists like that and Kid and Play with doing the movies, you know, and not taking anything away from them as well. And, you know, and I know it's a few more that we may not even be saying at this point, but they made it so fun to want to be a rapper.
Mhm.
You know, because now I can say something, but I don't have to just stand still and do it. You know,
Yeah.
I can actually showcase this whole thing. So I'm not just a rapper anymore. I'm an entertainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And
And
maybe that
was,
also comes, the whole B-boy aspect of being an MC was also probably a little bit closer in the 80s than you know, again, Rakim came along, and you also have really gangster rap. I think that probably changed that to a certain degree. I mean, of course, I think about Biggie's line where he said, "Your style's played out like Kwame." You know, Kwame was also one of those rappers that had a performance aspect to his whole brand. How that really changed in those early 90s.
I mean, he was the one that made polka dots even want to be something that anybody wanted to wear. You know,
Right.
Kwame had a substantial run, and you know, I think what was frustrating for me when quote unquote gangster rap came in, it was almost that the industry said you had to diss what was happening before in order to be what's going on right now. And you know, the history of all genres is what made, you know, what I always say this is that I have to know where I've been to understand where I'm at, to know where I'm going, you know.
Yeah.
And right now we're at a position, and I'll take it right back there to gangster rap. We were at a position to where we wanted to shut the door on the pioneers and just pretend like from that point on, but it really wasn't the artists, you know. What the way that I read a couple of articles and went through that, because again, you have to study what you're trying to get into. I read that, and most of it, gangster rap was supposed to be the demise and the end of hip hop, because if we put a negative tone on it, we can get rid of the genre itself. You know, so that's where gangster, so quote unquote gangster rap came in. But gangster rap wasn't doing anything but what NWA did when they hit the scene. They was letting you know what happened over there, and they was letting you know what had to happen on the streets. You know, I grew up on the Southside of Chicago. My music my solo music may not reflect it as much because I'm older now, but younger, that's what I saw all the time. I've seen people getting shot. I've seen people getting killed in the streets. So eventually that's going to come out in my music. That doesn't mean that it's gangster rap. I'm just telling you what I see, you know. So we right there, when gangster rap hit it, you know, we lost two really great MCs in that little era of gangster rap, and we had to go in a different direction. But I don't think the industry thought that the genre was going to actually stick, and it stuck. It kept going.
And when you say gangster rap, I mean, that was obviously the popular subgenre of rap at the time. But you know, you always had socially conscious rappers and MCs that were spitting about, you know, different subjects, but those weren't always the ones that were showcased by the media, so to speak, or on your MTV Raps or Raps. You know, you mentioned Common. Common was, you know, has always been a socially conscious rapper. You know, I'm thinking of, again, your Talib Kweli's, your Mos Def's. You know, you always had rappers like that were doing that. So it's
Public
not
Enemy.
like when Public Enemy, of course, obviously was the iconic group of the social conscious era. So you always had rappers that were in MCs and groups that were doing that, but they weren't always showcased. I mean, so, and you could even go back to Grandmaster Flash, the message, like how much different is the content of the message different from what NWA was doing in a lot of ways. You know, it's a lot of similarities in those, even though it wasn't, you know, or even a PSK Schoolie D. You know, the how is that different, really?
Schoolie D.
You know.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's all the same content, and I think that America was surprised by how we were talking to each other from different streets on the songs. You know, so NWA was letting us know what was happening in LA. You know, most of the groups, Public Enemy and everybody, was letting us know what was going on in New York. Common and Twista and everybody was letting everybody know what was going on in Chicago. And I think this made America afraid. The ones that paved the way to give people a chance to get in these, you know, in all of the major labels. We can't be talking about stuff that we're trying to hide, you know. So the groups back then weren't afraid to challenge that, you know, and that's one of the, I mean, honestly, that's one of the reasons why I made it through, you know, going to school and getting back, because we had to go through 3 and 4 and 5 different gangs just to get to school. You know, you're not guaranteed that you're going to make it back, you know, so, you know, music was it for me. You know, that was like, I had to be camouflaged in the street. And when I got back in the house, I could study some more on hip hop and R&B and everything, just to see where it's coming from. And even now I study country, I study alternative rock, jazz. I want to know what everybody's thought was when they hit that big one for themselves. What were they thinking, you know, in order to make that same thing, you know, for myself.
So you pick up and you move to the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
How does that change your trajectory on what you're doing in terms of hip hop? Did you continue to do the same thing, or did you adapt a new path?
Well, we were on tour in 2004, and we came off tour, and the guy that was our manager stayed out here, and he was letting us know that around 2012, a lot of kids out here were committing suicide, and he was like, "You guys." I used to work at a alternative school as a teacher, and I just seen that a lot of the kids were lost, and a lot of us really didn't want to talk to them, because sometimes it's hard to get through to the youth, period.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear it. They know it. You know, I know. And then, you know, but being that this is my job, I'm noticing as a teacher, you don't know. So let me tell you how this really goes. So we, you know, and then being a teacher, I could shut the class down and just do money management talks and talk about technology and everything that's going on, and how the world's going to look at you after 18. You know, it's going to be a totally different world out here after 18, because it's you're going to have to scrap. If you don't scrap, then you don't get anything, you know. So our manager that was on the tour with us in 2004 called out and told us that, "Hey man, I think that anti-bullying campaign, which was See It, Say It at that time," he was like, "I think it can work out here." So we came out and did a pilot with one of the schools here, a middle school, and it worked. And the district picked it up for 3 years, and they had us out here for 3 years of going around to the middle schools, the Head Starts, and high schools.
Okay. So that was the motivation to stay, was the program. You were actually working with the district. Okay. So I mean, what have been some of the, okay, so but now that you've been in the Pacific Northwest for a while, what would you say is some of the differences between the hip hop scene in the Pacific Northwest versus Chicago?
Chicago's much bigger. You know, like you could put a lot of the Pacific Northwest cities right in the middle of Chicago. So it a lot more competition in Chicago, a lot more flamboyant artists, a lot more violence, you know, so you really have to be careful of how you travel and who you're going to battle rap as well, you know, and that was why battle rap didn't really last that long in Chicago, because it was normally fatal on certain, the bigger the name, the harder the entourage was for that person to lose. So we're not going to lose. It's going to be, you know, some repercussions after this. So coming out to the upper Northwest, you know, it was a little different, because a lot of the guys that rap out this way, and young ladies that rap out this way, if you knew what you were talking about and you could keep the timing live, then you immediately knew what you were talking about. So we went to, and we did a couple of shows outside of the anti-bullying program, and we opened up for a few people here in the upper Northwest. And it was the last two before my brother passed was 112, and then Tyga came in, and we opened up for him as well. And we grew with the fans, but the fans were kids that we had talked to 3 years ago in high school. Well, now they're adults now. So they know exactly who we are because we were in their schools, and they were just amazed to see that we were doing more than just talking about anti-bullying, because these are our real songs now that we're performing.
Okay. So I mean, you're actually out there performing with groups and such. I mean, how does that lead you now to your current project? Like, what are you currently working on?
Well, all praise to my brother Harval Bang. He wanted me to go solo before he passed away, and I said no, because I was the CEO and the CFO of the group. So if you know how that works. So being the face, I'm the person that has to stand on the podium when the performance was good and when the performance was bad. It's really hard to do that for the group to think about a solo project. Now, spinning forward to the first project I had, which was Psychedelic in My Mind solo, that was right after my brother passed away, and that's how I grieved. I recorded 21 songs. In the month, he died in April of 2016. I recorded 20 songs in May of 2016. And the younger brother, DJ West One, he actually mixed and mastered all that stuff. And we had all of that stuff up in November, because now I'm realizing it's a lot of money to mix and master, get your artwork together, get a budget, make sure you go through TuneCore to get all of the online streaming and everything set up and ready to go. And then you go, oh, wow, that's a fee and a price for everything. Everything that we've done up to now has made me go full circle back to where I was when I was dancing in the beginning, to where I just want to have fun with my music and kind of mimic what Heavy D did back in the day. He had substantial lyrics, so you couldn't take that from him. But Heavy D, big boy, he cut a rug. He do what he got to do, and that's basically what I want to bring, because we know the business is really buying personalities. They're not buying music, and if you're not confident in who you are to be who you are, then you're not going to sell, So now, being who I am right now, my second project is named I Am Who I Say I Am, for that reason, that this is who I am. I'm nobody else but Herb.S.
So what would be the best way for people that want to stay on top of what you're doing, launch dates, release dates? What's the best way for them to stay in contact with you?
You can go Facebook, Herb.S, IG, Herb.S Music. You can catch SoundCloud, Herb.S. Definitely more so the book than any one of them, because I do live feeds and I get a chance to do motivational live feeds for everybody. But I also do a lot more of release dates. And then I go IG and I make sure that I put all of the dates that are coming, because the new project will be dropping March 2020.
Great. Well, Herb, thanks so much for joining the podcast. I really appreciate it. Best of luck to you in the future.
Hey, man, thank you so much, man. And thank all your listeners, man, for even giving me a moment.
Hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Process of Hip Hop. Join us next week for our next episode. The Process of Hip Hop is produced and edited by me, Brian Joseph. Executive produced by Dale Harewood. Music by DJ Big Mike of Realside Records at realsiderecords.com.